Hi guys, if you're new here, I'm Faith, and my channel is all about providing the best fitness and nutrition tips for busy women. The video you're about to see is taken from my postpartum recovery program. Now let's get started. Today I'm going to walk you guys through some daily activity modifications that you can do to help improve your core. Oftentimes we don't realize the effects that these daily activities can have on our core and our back as well. By following some of these modifications, it's going to help relieve back pain and also help protect our core. One of the most common daily activities that we do is getting in and out of bed. A lot of people just like to go right on their back, and that isn't the safest for our core. So I'm going to show you how to get up and down from the bed. Okay, so if you just come to the side of the bed, or even when we're coming down to the ground to do exercises, you want to make sure you're doing this the same way. So we're going to come down here. If you've just had a C-section, it's never a bad idea to protect that incision. Just kind of have your hand there just for some extra support. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to our side first, and then roll to our back. And then when we get up, we also want to roll to the side and push ourselves up. We never want to put ourselves in that crunch position where we're laying flat and then we just come straight up. That's putting too much pressure on our core. One of the biggest things that can really put a lot of pressure on our core as well as our back is getting the car seat in and out of the car. A lot of times what we're doing is we're lifting here and bringing it across, making a big twist in our core. And what we want to do is we want to eliminate all that extra movement. So for me, I personally have an SUV, so my seat does sit up higher, but those of you in a lower car, it's still going to be the same. What we want to do is we want to put our foot up to kind of embrace ourselves, and we want to take that car seat and bring it as close to our pelvic muscles right here. We just want to bring it as close to our body as possible so that we can walk with it. So we don't want to be swinging that car seat out at any point. We want it as close to our body. So again, even if you're bending down, make sure you're coming down more of a squat and then bringing that car seat to you. You don't ever want to come over like this. That's going to put a lot of extra pressure on your back and your spine that we don't need, especially postpartum. So again, we're going to bring ourselves as close to that car seat as possible, turn and walk away. Even when we have our car seat, a lot of times you may have it on the floor to start. And even when there isn't a child in it, it's still extra weight that you're going to be picking up. So if your car seat is on the floor, what I want you to do is I want you to come down in more of a squat position. You never want to bend over to pick it up. You want to come down in that squat position, bring it as close to you as possible, and bring it back up. Before you put the baby in, I always recommend bringing it to a higher surface. That way you're not picking up the car seat with the baby in it from such a low starting point. You're gonna start at a higher point, whether that be the couch or the table. Just make sure obviously that you are monitoring it when you have that baby in there. But again, bringing it up and down, you always wanna make sure that it's as close to you as possible, just to kind of help prevent any extra swinging movements or any extra pressure on that core. Same with this, when we're carrying the car seat, again, it's easier to pick it up from a higher standing point. We're able to bring it closer to us at that start. One thing I don't want you guys to do is to hang it on your hip like so. Again, that's the one that's just gonna throw you off altogether. What I want you to do is have that hand in there, pressed up against it here. That way you can stand nice and tall. Again, not putting extra pressure on your core and other muscles. So again, we're gonna hold it like so, instead of here where we're on our hip and we're just like off center. Again, we're here and we're gonna walk with it like so. And again, take both hands, bring yourself to whatever location where you're going to be putting it at, even if you need to bring it to the ground. So if we're here, we're gonna go ahead and keep it close to our body, and we're gonna come down in a squat-like position and then bring it back up. We never wanna be here pushing it over because we're putting a lot of pressure on our spine. Another daily activity that we tend to do that's going to put a lot of extra pressure in places we don't need it is when we're standing at the counter, whether that's cooking dinner, washing dishes, things like that. So when you're at that counter, typically, and your counter's probably a little higher than this, but we're typically either hunched over doing stuff or we're bent back kind of doing stuff. And that's throwing us off in our alignment. So a little tip that you can do is to open up your cabinet. And again, it's not gonna be as high as this, but just having that little step right there is gonna help keep us in line, keep us doing what we need to do with that nice neutral spine. Another activity that you might not notice is putting pressure on your core is when you wash your hair in the shower. So for a lot of people, when we're washing our hair, When we go to rinse it off, we typically lean back, and that's gonna create pressure on that core. So instead of leaning back and rinsing that hair off, you're actually just gonna step back, and we're gonna either tilt our head back or just step back far enough that that is not gonna put that pressure on your core. Where we're leaning, we want a nice neutral spine here. Now, a lot of times when we're getting ready, we are trying to get our makeup on or do our hair. A lot of times we're gonna be hunched over the sink, trying to get to that mirror. What I recommend you doing is have a mirror sitting on the floor. That way you can sit and get as close to it as possible without having to lean over. You can kind of give yourself that nice neutral spine. So again, just sit on the floor, get as close as you can that way while keeping yourself nice and tall. All right, so another daily activity that you can improve on is picking your child up and down from the ground. So instead of naturally bending over to pick them up like this, you wanna come down in a squat-like position, hold them close to you, and pick her up. Another thing that you also wanna be mindful is not placing them on your hip. You're gonna push that hip out to the side, and so throw off your alignment. So instead of doing that, we're actually gonna bring them to the front and use your hand to hold them close to your chest. That way your back is nice and in line, you can stand up nice and tall, and it's taking that weight out of your hip. High five. So also another thing, just as picking them up, obviously when they're not as big as she is, when they're laying on the ground, you still wanna do that same position. Can you lay down for me? All right, so when they're laying here, you don't want to bend over and pick up here. You look scared. You wanna come down again in that squat-like position, pick them up, bring them close to you, and then stand up. All those different moves are gonna help kind of keep that core safe and engaged where you're not putting extra pressure on there. Thanks for watching today's video and learning more about your postpartum recovery. If you want more free resources, be sure to grab the links below and be sure to like and subscribe while you're here, and we'll see you next time.